All right, it's time for some cap talk. But it's not as bad as everyone thinks. Let's talk about it. Dolphins fans, thank you so much for checking out my channel. Those of you that come in here and listen to me talk about this team, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's get into some of this stuff. I have a decent bit of information today, and it's not anything that's unavailable to the public or anything like that. You just got to go look at some websites and find it. Over the Cap, DolphinsWire.com, things like that. These are great websites to find information, so I recommend everybody goes and checks them out. First thing I wanted to cover. Well, first, obviously, I said thank you for checking out the channel, but in this small little YouTuber universe, I hit a very small milestone, and I wanted to say thank you to everybody for it. I went and looked at my channel, and I noticed that I crossed the 200 subscriber mark. So, not a big deal to a lot of YouTubers, but big deal to me. So, thank you for those of you that do subscribe and do watch my videos. I thank you. Thank you very much. Super cool. Anyway, the NFL did release their numbers on the salary cap increase for this year coming up. And before that happened, as of right now, since it hasn't really been added yet, the increase yet for the new calendar year, we are sitting at $1.5 million under the cap. So we are no longer over the cap. We're no longer sitting in the negative. We're actually in the green at about $1.5 million in the bank, able to be spent under the cap. Now, the NFL, since they made gobs of money, on all of the Amazon games and the extra Christmas games and Thanksgiving games and all that stuff, they made a lot of money this year. And in previous videos, I had mentioned that the salary cap was likely going to be increased from $25 to $30 million. And I was right. Well, kind of. A little close. The NFL said that the increase is going to be from $22 million to $26 million. So anywhere in there is where that official number is going to be. And our salary cap will increase. Now, so that means without changing anything on this team, without adjusting any player contracts, without cutting anybody else, where we sit right now, when that money gets added to the salary cap, we will be sitting anywhere from $23.5 million under the cap to $27.5 million under the cap. So I'm going to just call it $25 million because that's likely what it's going to end up being. So we're going to be at about $25 to $26.5 million under the cap. Without changing anything else, which is great. It's great. It's not an inordinate amount of money. It's not so much money that we're gonna be able to sign all these great players and all of this. But I tell you what, does mean. Number one, Stephen Ross is a very, very rich man, and having another $25 million available to be spent, Stephen Ross will spend it. And you can say a lot of things about Stephen Ross, but if there's one thing that he does do, is he is willing to fork over the money for these players. So that's a good thing. We're sitting at we're sitting at 1.5 right now, but realistically, once that salary cap is increased, we'll be sitting about $26.5 million under the cap. So we'll have $26.5 million to spend or invest on other players and re-sign contracts or whatever it is we want to do. Now, with that, I wanted to share some information I had. Number one, Jevon Holland. Okay. The Miami Dolphins did say that they are not going to franchise tag Jevon Holland, and obviously it hasn't happened. And since they're not going to franchise tag him, they've also allowed him to test free agency. So I don't know if Miami is going to make an offer. I would hope they would at least make an offer to Jevon Holland. They very well could have already made that offer, And Javon Holland, obviously, you know he's going to reject it because he wants money. He wants to get paid. And quite frankly, most of us fans, whether we like Javon Holland or not, I do like Javon Holland. I think he's a good player. I do not think he's worth top safety money. And that's what he's going and looking for. So he could still end up sticking with the Dolphins, but he's going to have to take a pay cut. Or he's going to have to take less money and a lesser, more team-friendly contract than what he likely wants. So he's going to test free agency. He's going to be snooping around and seeing what he can get paid from the other teams from. There is some rumors going around, and I really don't want this to happen, but this is the rumor about Javon Holland right now. There are talks that he is discussing things with the Buffalo Bills. Now, and actually there's a small rumor about New England as well. I don't want Javon Holland to stay in the AFC East if he's not going to be a Dolphin. But those are the two teams right now that he is being associated with, and that would be interesting, playing against him 2 times a year. But that's where it's at. That's where it sits. And if there's any more information that comes out about Javon Holland, as it does, of course, I'll be releasing. I'll make a video or I'll make a short, so everybody can see that as well. So what I'm counting on personally is I'm counting on Javon Holland not being a Dolphin this year. It kind of sucks, but like I said, he hasn't played that well the last couple years, and it's been a downward trend with his performance. So knowing that and knowing that he's looking for top safety money, I don't know if it's worth it, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm of the camp that would say let him walk, or let him at least test free agency like the Dolphins are doing and see what he can get. So that's where that's at right now. And I wanted to talk also about this. Now, I got my little sticky notes everywhere because that's how I like to record information, because I'm old school. I'm a FUD. So sticky notes everywhere, man. Post-its, that's what I do. I got it's ridiculous. I've got this brand new S25 phone, and it's got a little stylus, and whenever I pop it out, it comes up to a notepad, and I can write stuff and save everything, and just can't get myself to do it. I just like my sticky notes. We could save a lot of money by cutting a couple players, and we could save a lot of money by extending players, which is basically restructuring their contracts. Now, with that, we have some options and some interesting ones at that, and I wanted to talk about these. First of all, Jaelan Phillips. Now, I know he's had a couple really, really horrible injuries. But here's my thought process with Jaelan Phillips. Both those injuries weren't his fault. Both of those injuries were caused by our own players. The first injury, his Achilles, that was Brandon Jones. The second injury, that was Jordan Poyer when he blew out his knee. Our own teammates did that to him. It wasn't him. It wasn't his fault. He recovered wonderfully from the Achilles injury, and then he's recovering wonderfully from this knee injury too, and this reconstruction on his knee. He is the type of person that could recover from that and do well. I'm not sure if I think personally we should extend Jaelan Phillips without letting him play this coming up year. He is going to be on his 5th year this year coming up. It's an interesting thought, because if we restructure him, we could save up to $10 million on Jaelan Phillips. That would put $10 million back into our salary cap if we restructured him. So it's an interesting thought. So something to think about there. The other one, Zach Sealer. Now, I think we should restructure Zach Sealer. This is why. He's a beast. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He's playing better and better and better every year. And he is a very important part of our defense. Everybody on that team loves him to death. He's a good guy. He plays well. He's always first in, first out in practice meetings, everything. He's what you want in a player. I think that we should extend him and just make ourselves married to Zach Sealer. He's dependable. He never gets hurt hardly ever. He had that one injury this year where he missed a couple games when he hurt his eyeball. But once again, that wasn't his fault. That was in practice. And that was freaking Liam Eichenberg that hurt him. So I think that really, really, really we should definitely restructure Zach Sealer. And if we did, restructuring his contract would save us $6 million. $6 million just like that. So I definitely think Zach Sealer should be restructured. Jalen Phillips, I'm not too sure about, but if we restructured those two contracts, that would save us $16 million total. And if you figure that we're already going to be at about $25 to $26 million under the cap, you add that 16, we're looking at $42 million that we would have for free agents, for re-signings, for everything, for rookie contracts. $42 million just like that. With two restructures. Pow. Now here's where it gets interesting. Say we restructured those two people and we're sitting at $42 million. $42 million. Not looking too shabby. Here's the next little bit of this. Bradley Chubb. We have a couple options with Bradley Chubb. Now, I remember I said it was interesting that the Dolphins cut who they did earlier this year, or a week or so ago with Mostert and Fuller and those guys, is because of this. I said that it's going to be interesting come June 1st because at those post June 1st cuts, I believe you get 2 post June 1st cuts per team per year. Now, those 2 post June 1st cuts, if we made a post June 1st cut of Bradley Chubb, this team would save $20 million at $19.89 million. So $20 million if we cut him post June 1st. And this is what I said. Look out for Bradley Chubb and Teron Armstead because the Dolphins would save a lot of money by cutting these 2 players post June 1st. So, Bradley Chubb, you'd save $20 million. Teron Armstead, for a post June 1st cut, you would save $15 million. Now, if we cut those 2 players post June 1st and made them our post June 1st cuts, you're looking at $35 million saved just by those 2 cuts alone. That would put us at $77 million under the cap. Do you see how quickly this is adding up and how much money that we're ending up with to make this team right? So that's 4 moves. Now, the last one I wanted to talk about is Jordan Brooks. Now, he had a good year. He played well. I think that his restructure would save us $6 million. So you figure restructuring Jordan Brooks, Zach Sealer, and Jalen Phillips, that would put us at $48 million. Okay? $48 million restructuring those three players. Jalen Phillips, Zach Sealer, and Jordan Brooks. $48 million. Then you post June 1st cut Teron Armstead and Bradley Chubb. That saves us $35 million. That would put us at $83 million. $83 million to work this team in the right direction. That is 3 extensions and 2 cuts. 3 extensions, 2 cuts. That's 5 player moves. That's without signing anybody else, and that's without cutting anybody else. Just 2 cuts, Bradley Chubb and Teron Armstead. Now, those numbers drop a little bit if we were to restructure Bradley Chubb and Teron Armstead instead of cutting them. But even with that, we're looking at if we restructured Bradley Chubb and kept him on the team and restructured it, we're looking at a savings of $13.7 million. So let's call it 14 just for giggles. $14 million we could save with Bradley Chubb. Okay? And if we restructured Teron Armstead for another year and, made it mostly incentive based and bonus based, you're looking at a $10 million savings. So if here's the basic deal there is Bradley Chubb, we could save $14 million if we restructured him, or we could save $20 million with a post June 1st cut. Teron Armstead, we could save $10 million if we restructured him, or $15 million with a post June 1st cut. So the Dolphins have options here, and there's not a lot of work that needs to be done to put some money in the bank. You're looking at $83 million if they signed and if they restructured Jaelan Phillips, Zach Sealer, Jordan Brooks, and they cut Bradley Chubb and Teron Armstead post June 1st. That would put us at $83 million. If we decided to do the 5 extensions, which is Jaelan Phillips, Zach Sealer, Jordan Brooks, Bradley Chubb, and Teron Armstead, if we restructured all of those players, 5 restructures, that would put us at 48 and 28. That would put us at $76 million. So, basically, restructure Jaelan Phillips, Zach Sealer, and Jordan Brooks, no matter what. Then, either cut Teron Armstead and Bradley Chubb with the June 1st, post June 1st cut. If we did that, we would be at $83 million. If we kept those first 3 extensions, Jaelan Phillips, Zach Sealer, and Jordan Brooks, and then we also restructured Bradley Chubb and Teron Armstead, that would put us at $76 million. $76 million or $83 million is more than enough to do what we need to do on this team, especially if we make a good draft. Another thing I wanted to mention here, the point about all that first, before I get into this next little bit. The reason I wanted to talk about all that is to show you guys that the salary cap is not as big of a deal as everybody thinks it is. Now, those extensions don't necessarily mean we're kicking money down the road. That doesn't mean that we're adding more to later years down the road. There's other ways to do that. And the Dolphins have to find other ways to extend players other than just kicking all the money down to the end. So, my point is that I just showed you how to make, in a few moves, $83 million for our team. If I can do that, then you know that the Dolphins front office can do that. These are all things that can happen. 83 million, 77 million, it's a good chunk of money, and it can be done. So, knowing that, salary cap, not as big of a deal as everybody thinks it is. Like I've been saying, don't worry about the salary cap. This is going to work out. It will work out. I just showed you how it could. And there's other ways too. There's even ways to make more money. I was messing around and I ended up making us up to like $130 million. We'd have some holes, but $130 million is more than enough to fill those holes. So there's ways to do it. Okay? Don't worry about the money. Now, free agency. That's coming up. Round 1 of free agency, really. There's a lot of good players. I'm going to make a video about free agency and about some players that we should be looking for. There's a bunch out there in the free agency class. Now, for a lot of teams, this free agency class is not ideal. For the needs that we have on the Dolphins, this is a good free agency class. We can get some players. Now, I made a video a week or so ago about the draft, and it was the early primer, way too early primer for the draft. Now, I said how we could solve all of our issues by drafting for certain players, certain positions. Now, obviously, that's not the first thing that a team should want to do. Well, what should a team want to do? Well, a team should want to go BPA, best players available. That would give us the freedom to take the best talent we can at each draft point. Now, how do we get to a place where we can do BPA? Well, we need to have good free agency signings. Not the hugest splash, we don't need that, but we need good signings in free agency. And how we do that, ladies and gentlemen, is by getting out there and getting the players that we need. If we get as many players as we can that we need from free agency, and that's not just signing anybody, But if we make good signings in free agency, even if it's just a few of them, a couple guards, maybe a safety, maybe even a corner, if we make a few good signings in free agency, that'll give us freedom in the draft to go BPA, best player available, more and more and more in more of those draft picks. We're still going to have some needs in the draft. But like I showed in that draft video, and if you haven't watched it, go watch it. The strengths in the draft and the order in which this draft is likely going to go, not exactly how, because nobody knows, but by the basic order of how things are going to unwind and go through this draft, a lot of the needs that we have as a team are going to line up pretty well with the draft positions we have. My only personal wish is that we had maybe one or two more in the third and fourth round. So if we have a chance to trade down, like trade our first round pick down for another second or another third or another second and 2/4, I think we should do it. It'll give us a better opportunity to get the players that we need and be able to do BPA. And BPA is good. BPA is your friend. So Dolphins fans, don't worry. I made this video not to give hopium, but to give genuine hope. Genuine hope. The kind that's backed by reasoning and logic. Now, the team has a lot of needs. The team's money situation is not as bad as everybody says it is. Our draft situation is wonderful. We are set up for a wonderful draft. The free agency class lines up well with the needs that we have on this team. There's reason to be hopeful. Not reason to be ignorant, no, but there is reason to be hopeful as a Dolphins fan. You just need to look for it. I'm not going to be the one to put out into the world and put out into the universe that the Dolphins are going to be terrible next year. I'm not going to do it. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think we'll be terrible. I think we'll be better than this year that we just had. So I am approaching it that way. I do think that there is a way out of this dark tunnel that the Dolphins were in this year, and I can see it happening. So don't worry about the money. Let's see what happens in free agency. Let's see what happens in the draft. Let's pay attention to what this front office does for Miami. Thanks for watching, everybody. I do appreciate it. Like I said, I will have a video out soon about free agency. I'm putting in my work and making sure I do some research and doing it the right way. I'm not just going to spew out a bunch of names. I want to talk about the players that I think we should be looking for in free agency. So don't worry about it. I'm going to put that out soon. Also going to start some more draft primers and things like that for positions that we're going to be looking for. And we'll get into all of that as we get closer and closer to these momentous portions of this off season. Be excited. It's a good time. Go Dolphins. Stay hopeful.